Okay, we're recording. Welcome, everybody. Tina and Heather here to talk about parenting beyond the veil, through the looking glass, through all the self-work that all of us, a lot of us, if you're watching this, have been at least periodically doing in your life. And this series is going to be about how the parenting experience is interwoven with our own self-development, self-worth too, because our kids will show us all the places that we're lacking in that, and how our kids are little mirrors for us to reflect back all of our crap and all of the stuff that we need to work on. We like to blame the people around us for the things we're getting triggered by. And it does get harder, to really place blame on this, blank slate, precious little innocent being. And so I think that's one reason that the parenting experience is can be such an awakening experience for many of us. So welcome. And Heather was going to share, I guess, a little bit about kind of motivation and the catalyst for even recording these sessions. And I'll share a little bit more about mine, but I want to let you go first.
Well, my then 3-year-old, this has been almost 2 years ago now, but she was the catalyst for me even beginning this work. Just by the mirror that I saw, the way that I was being and the way that it was wounding her and being reflected at me from her. And so, now that I've been doing this work for a couple of years, I think it's been a few months now that I've really been seeing, she's now 5, and I can see some anxieties and I just know now, like, oh my gosh, this is like, oh, she has some wounds here, and I can see where I've created them, and I can see some of these, and then I can see some things where it's actually being reflected to me, like, oh, this is totally your thing. Like, you're the one who's doing this right now, that's creating this belief in her, like, right now, because of your wounds. And then there's other things where I'm like, oh, I don't know that this has created a wound yet, but why are you reacting that way? Like, what is this? There's something to look at here. And so, it's really made me realize that this relationship, there's such mutual healing here that I wanted to explore and share with parents the ways that we can recognize the triggers that we have with our children, to recognize things in us that are ready to be healed, as well as supporting that healing in them, and hopefully maybe negating some of the wounds that we cause in them.
This is definitely
maybe giving them a little jump start.
Yes, and I do want to acknowledge that and say to everybody watching, everybody that is, setting the intention for your own healing and for, helping your kids with whatever wounds they're expressing, it is absolutely, first of all, raising the vibration of this planet, but it is giving them a better foundation of, when I look at like the stuff that I didn't figure out and heal until I was 20 or 30 or 40, that my kids are like already becoming aware of and working with and dealing with, and, releasing it's intergenerational trauma that we're healing. It's ancestral trauma and karma, and it's like a blueprint, right? This human blueprint that we've created of abuse and, narcissistic tendencies, and, we could go on and on about, all the horrible things that we've done to each other as humans. And it's played out in the parent-child relationship too, and that's a wounded place that a lot of us we're cycle breakers right now. We're looking at how we can break those cycles. And just, if all you do today is be a parent to your child and work toward that, you have done a huge service, not only to your own family, but to the entire world. And in dissolving that, human blueprint that is so outdated, that is so ready to go, That's not working anymore, right? Authoritarian parenting is not working anymore. And our parents don't understand that a lot of times, grandparent generation and all the older generations don't understand when we say that, like, yeah, the authoritarian stuff, this child is not going to succumb to that.
I have to say, for the parents out there that were raised by authoritarian parents that are still in that mode, I'm still coming out of that mode. And a lot of the things that are coming up for me right now, and that have been coming up for me with my kids for a long time, come from that mode. So figuring out how to release that, that's part of what we're going to be addressing, because that's part of my work, is how to release that, why we're feeling that way. So we want to delve into that for sure, because I think that a lot of people who were raised that way and are expecting to raise their kids, are being expected by society to raise their kids that way, or don't know a better way like me and are just seeking a better way.
Yes. And I think, and that is, so you mentioned when we were talking about doing this series, you mentioned how our kids and the experience of being a parent pulls us into the 3D level of experience and understanding so strongly, because we are so concerned for our kids' physical well-being, they're just how they present in the world, right? How they're going to be treated in the world. We feel very responsible, right? For all of that. And so our kids do kind of, in becoming a parent, really pulls you so strongly into your own body and into, that physical reality of like, now I've got even another being to, try to keep alive and turn into this productive member of society, or whatever, the society says we're supposed to do. And at the same time, it puts us in touch with, for lack of a better word, the 5D experience of intuition and receiving that guidance, that parent's intuition that lives in all of us, that a lot of times isn't awakened until we become a parent and we start, worrying about that physical health or that, whatever experience. And so then, we might do our research and we might, do all those things, but there always comes a time for every parent where where none of the answers anybody is saying around us seem right and resonate. And when you look at your child, you're like, I can't do those things they're saying. Okay, yeah, I understand why y'all are saying that and why you believe that I need to do that, but that is not what my intuition is saying. And that's not what my child's inner being and, intuition and, the spark, the life force energy of my child, you can connect with that and what your kid needs. Mm-hmm. So for those of us who are, alternative parenting methods, right, is kind of a good umbrella, for lack of a better word, utilizing.
I feel like I didn't have that intuition because of the wounds that I have. My intuition didn't tell me that those things were wrong. My first gut instinct is you need to do what I'm telling you need to do because I know that you need to be safe.
Right.
You don't understand these things.
Right. Yeah. And so sometimes we get in touch with that intuition the moment we know we're pregnant, or the moment we know we're going to adopt, or the moment, sometimes it doesn't take till they're 3 or 5 or 7 or, whatever. And definitely, with my 19-year-old, he was the catalyst for so many layers of awakening for me and getting better in touch with that intuition, right? Like in hindsight, I can see how my intuition was screaming at me, things when he was an infant, things when he was, that I ignored at first.
Yeah.
But that just helped me be more confident by the time he was 7 and he had a really scary problem. And I went to people to ask, and they're like, check him into the psych ward. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
Sorry, he was 8. He was 8. And it was OCD stuff, but it was some pretty, intense stuff. And my gut was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Just like I knew I had to take him out of school at some point, because his needs weren't being met there. And I knew I wasn't going to send him to the psych ward. I knew that we could, and through homeopathy and energy psychology, we totally dealt with it.
Yeah.
And, nothing bad happened, and nothing bad happened to him in the psych ward.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah. So those moments, if I hadn't had the moment of not listening to my intuition when he was an infant and, had that hindsight of, oh, I didn't listen then, but now I know I should have listened. So then once I had that experience, I was able to stand up to these people who might have called CPS on me if I
Right.
didn't do what they thought I should do.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
And yeah, so as parents, we all have these moments where, you know, the answers that we can touch and access in the 3D realm are not cutting it. And so, so it is a paradox that parenting can, if we allow it, can put us in touch with that very strongly. And, you know, and just the process of honoring that inner voice in my children has helped me get more in touch with my inner voice, you know, and as I'm saying things to them, like, well, what does your gut say? What does your heart say? You know, that is reminding me every time. That helps reinforce it for me that, oh yeah, I need to pause and ask, you know, so
yeah.
it's
See,
all,
and ours was all like, my authoritarian parenting is like dealing with the emotional aspect of things. And that comes from when I was being raised. And so I still have a little bit of like working with unblocking a little bit of, and I can't actually see exactly where that is in myself as clearly as I can usually see the work that I need to have done, but I can see because of the trigger. I can't see it in myself like I normally can, but I know that it triggers me when my children are throwing a tantrum, and it triggers me when they're crying, and I want them to just stop crying and use their words. That's my biggest thing, is stop crying and use your words. Even though I know up here that they need to be able to cry. They need to be able to get those emotions out, but there's something they're triggering. And so I know that other people have this experience where they're like, there has to be another way for me to handle this, but I'm so triggered and I don't have the tools.
right. And when you're triggered, it's hard to hear inner guidance then too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's, yep.
Yeah. I mean, that is, and yeah, so it's a process of, you know, just even having that awareness, like, okay, dude, right now you're triggering me, and I'm going to walk away and have some breasts while you cry and have your tantrum, you know, like whatever, you know, whatever we have to do, right, to figure that out and to create that space so that we can get centered and we can say, okay, you know, whatever higher power there is, and give me some answers, because, you know, none of these things feel right that, you know, we're trying right now.
Yeah.
So
thank God kids are resilient.
Oh my gosh, so many things we've said so far, or like the conversation my husband and I have been having. Thank goodness humans are resilient, just in general, right? Because we have been horrible to each other for many millennia, but we also have been amazing to each other, and we can be, and that's what we want to focus on, and that's what we want to grow in this, in your life, as we do these sessions and move forward with this, but also for anybody watching that is needing support in that area.
Yes.
So hooray. So we're glad y'all are here. The one thing that I want to start with, I'm going to do this screen share. I've got this graph. Let's see. From Bruce Lipton. I didn't write that on here. I think I wrote it somewhere at the end of the packet, but these are some pages from my energy psychology webinar, and I took it from Bruce Lipton's work, and he took it from, I mean, this is all pretty well established neuroscience at this point. Can you guys see? You guys, Heather?
I can see it, yes.
Okay. All right, so it looks right on my screen. So this is kind of a foundational just piece of information for everybody, you know, if we're going to go forward with this work, and people are going to kind of understand what we're doing, and some of the stuff we're talking about. I just want to start with this information about what we know about our brainwave activity and the ages that these different brainwaves come online, basically, as you know, it's one way to put it. It's a developmental chart. So of course, human development can vary widely. And I'm sure we'll talk plenty about that during the series. But generally, from birth to age 2, and really in utero and Bruce Lipton will talk about this in his presentation when he uses his chart like this. Starting in utero and moving up to age 2-ish, our brains are just in delta brainwaves. So that means that, and that's delta is just the name they've given to the frequency of the brainwave. So sometimes we'll talk about like high vibe and low vibe, but really that is talking about frequency. It doesn't mean high is better and low is worse. So just to get that out there. But in this state, we don't have any filter. We're not evaluating what's happening around us. We're not saying, oh, this, this thing that's happening is right or wrong. We might experience that it feels good or feels bad. So, we have that ability to be like, move toward the things that feel good, move away from the things that feel bad. But that's about the level, that our filter is at that age. So we're downloading, recording everything that happens around us. And it's basically, we're in hypnosis. So do you have any questions about this part of it, Heather?
No, that makes perfect sense.
So, and if you think about, if you've already had kids that have gone through these ages, or, if you are able to remember, in your life, I mean, for a lot of us, our first memories are at 2, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the age. And really, to know what age you were when your next level of brainwaves came online, you can just trace back, like, sorry, I'm clicking the wrong place. You can trace back to the age that you have your first memories. Now, if you're like my husband and you had trauma early on in life, and we'll just leave it at that, some sort of trauma early in life, you might not have memories until later, just because you've blocked out. If you don't have any memories before 5, it probably means that, there was some trauma going on there. But so in a healthy environment, you'll start to have memories once your theta brainwaves come online. And so this is just a different frequency of brainwave, and it's our imagination state. It's when we can go between imaginary and real life very seamlessly, right? So that's the age for the wild pretend play, right? These kids still do pretend play after age 6, but usually before age 6 or 7, the pretend play is just like way out there, right? And which is, it's a good thing, right? This kind of protects this system or, this way of humans developing kind of protects us and keeps us from, well, I can't think of the right word right now. Keeps us, it gives us coping mechanisms. Let's put it that way. It helps us create coping mechanisms in that imagination state. In twilight reverie is so when you're, as an adult, you can experience theta brainwaves by the period before and after sleep. Right as you're falling asleep, right as you're waking up, you'll be in theta. Hypnosis will often put you down into theta. And then you can put yourself in theta with meditation, and there's some other, technologies that you can like listen to, stuff, and then of course, energy psychology. If you get the hemispheres of the brain talking to each other and get into, a really relaxed state, you can get yourself into theta. And so this is the place where, again, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. This is the place where this purple area, we're highly programmable. So we're basically in hypnosis up until the age of 6 or 7. And everything that comes in, like that filter is just not there. We're not evaluating as good or bad. It just is the way the world is. And so another good reason for that, or good thing that comes of this, is that we're able to learn the world and learn how to stay out of trouble, and in a lot of ways, right? And learn how to avoid those uncomfortable situations as best we can, to the extent that we have the power as children to avoid them. And so that's good news, and it makes it quicker to learn everything, right? That's why kids before that age can learn, other languages and super learning. We're in a state of super learning when we're in this hypnagogic state. Now, the bad side of that is that all of the crap that happens to you is programmed into you as, this is just how the world is. You are powerless to change it. If it's something that as a child you were powerless to change. There's bad news here because so many people have grown up in families where dysfunctional things, were the norm. And the good news is that we can use our conscious mind, and we can use our alpha state to change things and to reprogram what was absorbed by our brains when we were in those first 7 years. So I'll just keep clicking through these. Alpha state, and then beta state generally isn't reached until about the age of 12, and that's when you kind of go into that time warp. Sometimes you can go into a time warp when you're in theta, and then you can also go into a time warp when you're in beta, because you're really hyper focused on like your passions in life, and you're really getting things done, and you're, whatever, when you're in that hyper focused state of consciousness, we can use that too to help reprogram. So, any questions about all of this?
No, this is actually the first time that I've seen this, and it makes a lot of sense. I'm just kind of taking it all in right now.
Yeah, it's a really, you can come back to this chart and kind of, it's a lot of information that can be applied to a lot of different realizations. Let's put it that way, right? With our kids, and then with our own self and our own development, most of us can look back at, when did we have that ability to be in that hyper focused state? For some of us, we were late bloomers, and it was not until the age of 16. It can vary. But yeah, so with alpha and beta, we have a filter. We're more in our conscious mind, and we are able to say, you know what, all that crap that happened to me as a kid, that was wrong. And it felt bad for a reason. And I need to trust that feeling and not do it to my kid. Right. And so most of us aren't even that intentional sometimes about it and saying it with those words, but that's what we feel when we know, like, I know what not to do.
Yeah. I remember having those feelings around those ages.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, the work we do with energy psychology and some of the other healing techniques is, getting into that theta state, putting ourselves there on purpose to make the changes and rewrite the blueprint of, what is acceptable in the world, right? And now that we have the power to change it as adults, and, we're not at the mercy of whoever our caretakers are, we can use this information, because it's good news and bad news, right? Some people have really hard reactions to this when they're like, holy shit, what have I done to my kid? You know, and when they're past 7 and oh my God, you know, and believe me, the kids can heal faster and fix and rewrite way faster than you can. So just focus on doing it for yourself. And then in the process, you'll be helping your kids do it, and you'll be able to, you know, take what you've learned to change your own stuff. And it also just kind of filters into your family too, when you make those changes to your own blueprint, your own operational system.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at, I've got like a 5-year-old, right? And so I'm like, wow, I do have such a wonderful ability to, even the ideas that I have supported, the unhelpful belief systems that I have supported in her gaining right now because of my own wounds, I still have time to actually go back and create a new story for her.
Absolutely. And, you know, and even if she was past 7, you still have time, because the blueprint isn't as firm, if that's one way to put it. You know, it's not as strong with our kids. And so, you know, I remember so speaking of alternative forms of parenting, we're unschoolers, and my eldest, when he was 8, he had been out of school for about a year, and he said something about, like, Mom, I need to find a job. I'm never going back to school again. He had already decided that. He's like, school is not the place for me. They are not meeting my needs. Like, yeah, no, we're done with that. However, he still had the belief, that's a societal belief, that if you don't have an education, then you're not going to make anything of yourself. You can't amount to anything, you know. And so in his mind, not going to school meant he wasn't going to have an education. And that was the moment that I realized, like, oh crap, I did all this research on like unschooling and, you know, going about this in this way. And I know that he's going to learn. I have no doubts that he's going to learn everything he needs to, but I forgot to like say that explicitly to him, you know? So for a minute I was like panicked, like, holy crap, are we going to, you know, and all it took was a conversation of, oh honey,
there's more than one way to learn.
Yeah. You're going to learn everything you need to know. You're going to hear other people say, and you're going to hear on PBS Kids that learning happens at school. And you're going to hear, you know, grandparents and aunts and uncles and people make assumptions about learning has to happen in school. Mm-hmm. But humans have learned just fine for millennia, you know, with this other way of doing things. And so that we're going to try that, and you get to be in charge of it, you know, and you get to choose the path. And he was so relieved, and it was, you know, we didn't even have to do any energy psychology on it, right? It was just like, and he was past the age, right, where he had this, you know, but it's so much easier to help them shift their beliefs, you know, even now, he's 19, you know, and he doesn't have much of the residual, like, societal beliefs too much. He has a few, but now he can't even comprehend why people, you know, are stuck in that old blueprint, and why are they wasting time over there, you know?
Well, and I think, you know, I know that they're, just from seeing in our groups, because I'm somebody who wanted to unschool. I'm divorced, but my ex-husband is insisting on a private religious school. And so for people who either don't have the ability or whatever for their kids who are in that system, this will be, you know, also a good way for them to see, you know, the ways that we can help to support. I mean, I'm literally just letting my children, I'm really just telling my 5-year-old, listen, this is what they've been taught. This is all they know. And you're going to be hearing these things, but I want you to know that there's more than one way.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, the best way that I know to approach it, to just let her know, oh yeah, you're going to hear these things. You're going to hear the people who don't know any different. So that's their belief, but there's more than one belief system here.
Yeah. And, you know, we can choose a different belief system without making somebody else's belief system wrong.
Yeah.
They don't hear it that way. You know, they see our choice, you know, of doing it differently as some sort of, you know, affront to how they've done it, or how, you know, how our parents did it, or how, you know, whoever. So it's definitely can be a touchy thing. But the best thing is that it doesn't matter if all the adults in your kid's life believe something different, all you have to do is talk to your kid about like, yeah, they all believe different things. Learn from them. They're, you know, listen to everybody, then check it here.
Yep. That's the biggest thing actually that I think that I just realized in the last few weeks is I think that that's the best tool that we can give to our kids is to be checking in with themselves, because at the end of the day, if they're checking in with their filter and how they feel and what feels right to them and what feels good to them, then that's going to get them where they need to be.
Simple.
Yeah.
So simple. Now, then you go outside your house and everybody wants to make it complicated, right? And so, and we're at like 30 minutes now. So I think we should probably wrap it up and we'll come back with we'll do some processes. We're going to be totally doing some energy psychology processes and different healing modalities that you'll be seeing in real time Heather doing to clear whatever her stuff is that she needs to clear to be able to be the parent that she wants to be the human she wants to be. And then, you know, all the other kind of topics around just parenting in a different way than the mainstream and how that shows up and how that contributes to our own evolution and expansion, how it can, you know, interplay with our relationship with our children. We're going to be talking about all these things. So
I think we were also talking about doing a session, inviting our children so that we can work with them too. And so that we can kind of show, you know, in some areas, some work that we can do with them too, and the areas that we can address some things.
Yes.
We will be part of the process too.
Yes. And definitely Juliana loves to do energy psychology balances and all that kind of stuff. So she'll
my 5-year-old will be just like over the moon about being able to be part of that. So
I'm excited about that. We're going to do that. And then we had a request for covering stuff from the continuum concept and nonviolent communication, Abraham Hicks. And of course, we'll be talking about lots of different healing modalities, and unschooling will always be a part of it. And you know, I just want to say, for everybody who doesn't feel like they can take their kids out of school or is in a situation like you, right, in a divorce situation where, you know, the courts are saying, or the, you know, the agreement has to be that they go to school, that you can unschool even when a kid is in school. And you just gave a great example of a way, you know, one of the ways that we do that is like, yeah, okay. And some of, you know, I know unschoolers who go to school just because they want the theater program, or just because they want, you know, more social time, or whatever the, you know, of course they usually go to school and realize you get more social time when you're not in school. But anyway, but they go to school for certain reasons, and they just take what they can, you know, what they need from it. And then they have permission to not give a shit about grades and not give a shit about, you know, whatever those social constructs are that can be so, you know, anxiety producing and, you know, really pull us off of our center and away from our inner guidance. School is a good one to pull us away from our inner guidance, right? And so, but there are plenty of kids that are able to maintain that even in school because they have the support at home.
Yeah.
You know, that I don't care.
Like as long as they're given permission to find that somewhere within themselves and be outside of that little box somewhere within themselves and have that acceptance somewhere, even if they have these, I mean, I'm hoping and praying that even if they've got these expectations so heavy on one side, if they're given somewhere to flourish, as long as you can provide some kind of environment where they can be themselves and they're trusted and accepted and they can learn to accept themselves and flourish in that way, then they'll be okay.
And also, you will always be the one, if you're the one that holds that space for them, you will always be the one they come to when they have a challenge and when they have a problem and when they have somebody else pressuring them to do something that their heart is saying no to. Yeah. You're going to be the only, you know, maybe, hopefully not the only safe person, but at least you're a safe person that has said to them, listen to all these people and then check in here.
Yeah.
That the person you're always going to come back to for advice.
Even, especially because I'm like, listen to all of them and even listen to me and then check in here. Like, I'm not telling you.
This is what I'm getting on this. This is what my intuition is saying on this, but I defer to you.
You gotta explore your own.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I know. I'll share what I know, but you don't have to take it that either.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm super excited to do this and to share it with everybody.
Me too.
So thanks for watching, everybody, and we will be back pretty soon with some more of the road less traveled with these little itty bitty ones.
Absolutely.
See y'all next time.